50 countries have folded to President Donald Trump's demands. 50 countries have approached the White House about negotiating free trade agreements so that these tariffs will be dropped ASAP, ASAP, as soon as humanly possible. And that is something that Donald Trump said would happen. As soon as he announced global tariffs, reciprocal tariffs on pretty much every country that's been taking advantage of us, ripping us off for what seems like, forever. 50 countries have now come to the table and said, we want to negotiate in some way, shape, or form. Some of them announcing they're going to drop all tariffs and they want to go to a 0% free trade policy with the United States of America. And Kevin Hassert was on the Sunday shows discussing all of the beautiful possibilities that could be coming right around the bend.
Got a report from the USTR last night that more than 50 countries have reached out to the president to begin a negotiation. But they're doing that because they understand that they bear a lot of the tariff. And so I don't think that you're going to see a big effect on the consumer in the U.S. because I do think that the reason why we have a persistent long-run trade deficit is these people have very inelastic supply. They've been dumping goods into the country in order to create jobs, say, in China.
Yeah, inelastic supply is one of those big words that basically says they need us. They need us to buy their stuff, because if we don't buy their stuff, then they've got no economy. The United States of America, as a global, I guess you would say, consumer, really drives the economies of every other country. And if we stop buying your products, you don't have anyone to sell to. That's going to be a big problem for countries that are, like we said, coming to the table. Countries like Taiwan and Vietnam and even Brazil with Javier Milei is racing to almost be one of the first countries to make a deal. And Benjamin Netanyahu from Israel has already announced they'll be dropping all of the tariffs on the United States of America. And he's even here in town today. He made an emergency flight to the United States of America to meet with President Donald Trump after Liberation Day and the announcements that every country would be tariffed reciprocally. Would be tariffed, the same. Yeah. And so now we're starting to see that, yes, while there was a massive shift in the economy and while the markets plunged and while people were freaking out, the cooler heads are prevailing and a lot of leaders are saying, okay, well, we can't take advantage of the United States of America anymore. We're going to have to figure out some other way. And President Donald Trump was on Air Force One talking to reporters, and he said, look, these countries, they understand why we're doing this, and they're okay with it.
I've spoken to many countries. They all want to do, just so you understand the power of what I'm doing, every country is calling and being very solicitous of us. Very, very nice. They're being very nice. And we have to be able to justify. This is not sustainable. The United States can't lose $1.9 trillion on trade. We can't do that and also spend a lot of money on NATO in order to protect European nations. We cover them with military, then we lose money on trade. The whole thing is crazy. And I got elected on that basis. We explained it. The American people understand it a lot better than the media. But the media understands it. And much of the media writes correctly about it, I must say.
Yeah, but some of them are not writing correctly about it. In fact, Secretary Brooke Rollins, who is the agriculture secretary, she stuck it to CNN's Jake Tapper this weekend because he was trying to mislead her and misrepresent the reason that the European Union does not buy our beef and some of our meat products. The reason is because, tariffs. But they are lying and saying it's because of hormones. And Brooke Rollins was not having any of it, and she was not going to let Jake Tapper get away with even more misinformation.
The bottom line is this. In the last 4 years, the cost of inputs for our farmers went up 30%. In the last 4 years, we had an agriculture export deficit that increased from zero when President Trump left to $49 billion. Our farming and our farmers and ranchers are hurting. They are operating at margins of profit that are thinner than they have in a really long time due to the policies of the last 4 years. But to Senator Tillis's point, we have to be prepared that if there is longer term damage, and this president has been very focused on this, and I've been saying it pretty much ad nauseum for the last 50 days since I've been in office, is that we will make sure that we have the funds, in working with the senators and working with the appropriators, that we can do do what we did last time, which I think Secretary Perdue last time spent about $25 to $28 billion to mitigate some of the fallout from the last tariffs for the short term. The long term, the tariffs worked. I mean, the research shows that we had an increase in productivity, increase in jobs, et cetera, until, frankly, the Biden administration stopped enforcing some of those, the deal once we left office in 2021.
And now we've got a new president, or the old president is back again, and he's enforcing the deal, and he's making sure that all of the other countries know, look, this is something that we have to do. It's as he said, we cannot keep this up. This is unattainable or unsustainable. And everybody understands. He even said, look, the tech leaders have been calling me and they say, we don't blame you. We know why you're doing it. We know what the rest of the world has been doing to you all these years. It's no secret. It's no secret to world leaders and world economists. It is, however, a secret to, well, the American people and also the media who've been, I guess, either unfamiliar with how tariffs work or unwilling to admit it.
Sir, have you talked to any tech leaders over the weekend about the tariffs?
Yeah, I talked to the biggest in the world. I talked to the biggest of them all, many of them, but I've talked to, I would say 4 or 5 that are considered the biggest. They don't, you know what they said? We don't blame you.
Yeah, it's funny to me that this reporter would say to Donald Trump, who basically hangs out with Elon Musk every day of his life, have you talked to any tech leaders? Donald Trump's like, that's all I do. Elon's in my office. He brings his kid in. He's always there. He's always in my ear jabbering about something. Yes, I bought a Tesla. I don't know if you saw it the other day at my house. Yes, I talk to tech leaders constantly. And this is something that needs to be done. We need to make sure that we're on an even playing field. They don't blame me. They understand that this is something that America needs to remain an exceptional economy and the leader, not just of technological growth, but of economic growth and military growth and hair growth, all the growths. If we want to be the leader in growth, then we need to make sure that we're not being taken advantage of and we're not the world's piggy bank anymore. And Howard Lutnick, who's the Commerce Secretary, was on television because everyone, if that's what they do on Sundays, forget about it. The entire Trump team is out doing the Sunday morning talk shows. And Howard Lutnick was talking about, look, we're basically just resetting the United States of America.
The point is you need to reset the power of the United States of America and reset it against all our allies and our enemies alike. The idea that all the countries of the world can run trade surpluses with America and buy our things with us. Remember, $1.2 trillion. In 1980, we were a net investor, meaning we owned more of the rest of the world than they owned of us.
Yeah, it's a different world. It's a different market.
Now they own $18 trillion of us net. So that means the rest of the world, every year when we run a $1.2 trillion deficit, the rest of the world buys $1.2 trillion of America, and it goes up and up and up, and eventually we're not going to own America, and we are going to be owned by the rest of the world. Imagine if we had a war and we can't build a ship, we can't fly a plane, we can't build our own planes, we don't have our own semiconductors. This is what the president is here to fix for America. It's in his hands, and he wants to fix America. This is his chance to fix America, and we need him to fix it for our children and our grandchildren.
And of course, there's what's her name? She's trying to break in all the time. She always constantly loses control of her own show. She should never have Republicans on her show because she can never. What's her name? Margaret Brennan. That's the one. I don't really care, Margaret. I will never, for the rest of my life, ever forget how amazing J.D. Vance was sticking it to her. But Howard Lutnick says, look, it is not just an economic problem. It's a national security problem, because he's right. If we don't make our own stuff and a war breaks out, then we don't have any stuff. We don't have medicine. We don't have ships. We don't have any of the stuff that we need. Semiconductors are crucial to everything, whether it's your attack chopper or your air fryer. You need some kind of microchip to power it. And if you don't have one of those, because they're all made in Taiwan or they're made in China or some country that we go to war with that hates us, that locks down production and distribution, well, forget it.
You've got to realize this is a national security issue. I mean, we don't make medicine in this country anymore. We don't make ships. We don't have enough steel and aluminum to fight a battle right? All our semiconductors are made overseas, so every button we press when we try to start our car or even use our microwave, these are all semiconductors. They're all made elsewhere. We've got to start to protect ourselves, and we've got to stop having all the countries of the world ripping us off. We have a $1.2 trillion trade deficit, and the rest of the world has a surplus with us. They're earning our money. They're taking our money.
Right.
And Donald Trump has seen this, and he's going to stop it. So it is going to be a big change. Of course it's going to be a big change, but the rest of the world has been ripping us off for all these many years. Donald Trump has seen it. He's spoken about it.
I understand
and he's just
that.
not going to take it anymore, and that's his model.
She understands that, yet she has real serious issues with Donald Trump protecting the United States of America. But it's not just Howard Lutnick and Kevin Hassard. He's got the entire team out there describing exactly what's been going on and how we need to change. And Peter Navarro is saying, look, everybody needs to understand exactly what's going on with the tariffs. And I think most people do. When you have Benjamin Netanyahu coming to the United States today to negotiate a zero tariff policy, when you have Javier Milei saying, I want Brazil to be one of the first with a zero tariff policy, when you start to see all of that, you start to realize that Americans are behind President Donald Trump. They don't like all these things, all these countries cheating us. They want lower prices and costs of goods. Yes, will the 401ks rebound? 100% they will. In fact, we're starting to see already this morning a little bit of a rebound in some of the markets and some of the futures because people realize this was a gross overreaction. And over the weekend, there's been movement made, and there will continue to be movement made. And President Donald Trump is making it.
Yeah, I think we need American people to understand, and I think many of them do, why we have to do what we're doing. $1.2 trillion trade deficit. We've exported $18 billion worth of our wealth since China joined the WTO in 2001 by running these trade deficits. And we've given away our houses, our office buildings, our food supply, our farmland. That's got to stop. It's threatening our economic prosperity, national security. And the reality here is that institutionally, the international trade system is designed to cheat us. They have systematically higher tariffs on us, but more importantly, and far more importantly, it's the non-tariff cheating. It's the VAT taxes, it's the currency manipulation, the dumping, the export subsidies, the fake standards that keep our agricultural products out and keep our cars out of Japan. It's all these things that these foreign countries do that are designed explicitly to cheat us and are sanctioned by the World Trade Organization. So President Trump says no more, no mas, ain't happening on his watch. And that's where we're headed. We're heading towards a strong America that makes things again.
And we're looking to see exactly that the World Trade Organization is complicit in all of these anti-American practices. And he's right about that. The tariffs are one thing, but the standards on beef and meat that Brooke Rollins was talking about with CNN's Jake Tapper, the cars that are not allowed in Europe or in parts of Asia. Why? Not because the cars are bad. Our cars are some of the best in the world, some of the cleanest in the world. But the issue is, that you have is that they don't want American car makers competing with their own countries. If you go to Germany, everybody drives a Mercedes-Benz, not because they're rich. It's because the Mercedes-Benzes are the regular. They make a regular car that anyone could afford because they don't have any competition coming in from the United States of America, and that's where a lot of their money is made. Yes, they make a boatload selling luxury vehicles here in the United States, but they make even more selling the everyday man car to everyday men and women over there in Germany. And Donald Trump says, look, we want open markets too. We want to be able to bring our Fords and our Dodges. We want to be able to bring our Pontiacs. Pontiac, is that still a thing? We want to be able to bring Teslas and everything else into your country, and that's something that we're going to have to negotiate on. And the EU, interestingly enough, because they're a European Union and not just one country, is talking tough, but also coming to the negotiating table. You've got countries like Germany and France who are saying no. But then you've got Italy who said, look, we've got to negotiate. We've got to come down to a zero tariff policy. Nobody wants a trade war. And really, China is the only country that has raised their tariffs 34% in retaliation, while others have squawked the squawk. Not many have actually Not many have actually walked the walk, so we'll see how that happens. Speaking of squawking the squawk, the lawfare continues. The lawfare against President Donald Trump. Most importantly, the judges who were trying to stop Donald Trump from sending planes full of illegal aliens, criminal illegal aliens, gang members, deadly, murderous, thuggish gang members back home to Central America. Those judges who wanted those planes stopped now want President Donald Trump to bring some of the criminals back. And Donald Trump said that's not gonna happen. In fact, El Salvador is excited and willing and able to take our prisoners, and we're gonna take them up on that offer.
Back to El Salvador, the president there said he would be willing to take American citizens in the federal prison population. Is that one of the ideas you're going to be discussing?
Well, I love that. If we could take some of our 20-time wise guys that push people into subways and that hit people over the back of the head and that purposely run people over in cars, if he would take them, I'd be honored to give them. I don't know what the law says on that, but I can't imagine the law would say anything different. If they can house these horrible criminals for a lot less money than it costs us, I'm all for it. But I'd only do according to the law. But I have suggested that, why should it stop just at people that cross the border illegally? We have some horrible criminals, American grown and born. And if we have somebody that bops an old woman over the head, if we have somebody that is in jail 20 times and goes back and shoots people all over the place and then has a bad judge or a bad prosecutor that do nothing about him, all they worry about is politics, they don't worry about that. I think if we could get El Salvador or somebody, but to take them, I'd be very happy with it, but I have to see what the law says. Okay.
That's it. Donald Trump now saying, look, if El Salvador can take these criminals, we'll send some Americans out there too. If you're a really bad American, if you're one of these head boppers, if you bop these old women on the head and steal their bags or push people in front of subways, or if you're just a career criminal and you've been in and out of jail for 20 times, why are we fitting the bill? Everything in the United States is way more expensive. You send them down to El Salvador. The jails are, let's just say, not as cush as they are here, and are a lot cheaper. So instead of paying to house a criminal, whatever we pay, $40, $50, $60, $80,000 a year per head, we could pay $15,000 to El Salvador, save a bunch of money, and also get these people out of our country. Donald Trump, of course, saying, I would only do that if it were within the scope of the law, because the media always likes to twist Donald Trump's words, as does the left. In fact, Pam Bondi was on the Sunday shows yesterday, and she was talking to, I believe it was Shannon Bream, and she was talking about how Donald Trump and these lawsuits and the lawfare, it is ridiculous how these things continue and how Donald Trump is being thwarted at every aspect. And she said that's really the constitutional crisis.
He was overwhelmingly elected by an overwhelming majority of the United States citizens to be our commander-in-chief, and that's what he's been doing. Shannon, just since January 20th, we've had over 170 lawsuits filed against us. That should be the constitutional crisis right there. 50 injunctions. They're popping up every single day, trying to control his executive power, trying to control where he believes our tax dollars should be allocated. And saying he won by an overwhelming majority is so important, because that's what the American people want. What President Trump campaigned on and what he won on. And he's implementing that agenda at a rapid speed. None of us can keep up with him every single day. And so it's just, we're going after all of these lawsuits. We're defending them all. We just got a great win, and we'll continue to fight.
That's right. They're fighting every aspect. They're fighting the tariffs. They're fighting our enemies. They're fighting our allies. And of course, they're fighting the court system here at home. And President Donald Trump will continue to fight, because that's what President Donald Trump does. We're going to continue to bring you all of the details of these fights and these battles and the wins that Donald Trump is accumulating every single day on my second daily podcast, Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. If you go to your local, you can watch it live. We do a live stream as well at noon, or you can just find it on your favorite podcast platform. Simply search Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. Download, listen, and enjoy.